the anthem that defined a generation. It was the song that made Nirvana a household name. Smells Like Teen Spirit blasted its way to the top of the charts in 1991, a track that became the anthem of Generation X. But behind the loud guitars and rebellious lyrics was Kurt Cobain, the voice of a movement who couldn't stand playing it. To the fans, it was Nirvana's signature song, the one they couldn't get enough of. But to Kurt, it felt more like a curse. From the very first strum of the guitar, the band had no idea how massive it would become. It was a fluke, a moment of inspiration that Kurt, at the time, didn't even think was that great. But once it hit the airwaves, everything changed. Suddenly, Nirvana wasn't just another grunge band. They were the face of an entire era. And with that success came something unexpected, the pressure to keep it alive. But Kurt, he was already over it. The weight of expectations. Nirvana's rise was meteoric. With Teen Spirit came fame, fortune, and an expectation to deliver more of the same. But Kurt Cobain was never comfortable in the spotlight. He hated the attention. He hated how the song, which was meant to be an expression of his frustration, had become this huge commercial success. To Kurt, it was everything he stood against. He never wanted to be a rock star. He didn't want to be the voice of a generation. But Smells Like Teen Spirit turned him into just that. Imagine writing a song that feels like your rawest, truest self, and then it gets turned into a marketing tool. That's what happened to Kurt. Everywhere he went, people screamed for him to play it. At every concert, at every interview, the pressure was on. And no matter how many times he played it, he couldn't escape the feeling that it was trapping him in something he no longer wanted to be a part of. The irony of success. When Smells Like Teen Spirit became a global hit, Kurt was caught in a battle between artistic integrity and commercial success. The irony wasn't lost on him. He had poured his soul into Nirvana's music, creating something that was meant to be raw and real. But now, it was being reduced to a pop culture phenomenon, a song that defined a generation in ways Kurt never intended. Kurt often said that Teen Spirit wasn't even his favorite song to play. He was proud of what it represented, but it wasn't the song that spoke most deeply to him. And yet, it was the one song that fans wanted to hear over and over again. Every show, every performance, the same song, the same expectations. The very thing that made Nirvana famous was now something that Kurt dreaded. The struggle of being misunderstood. The deeper Kurt fell into the whirlpool of fame, the more misunderstood he felt. To the world, he was the grunge god, the tortured artist who had created the soundtrack to their angst. But behind the scenes, Kurt was battling with his own demons. Smells Like Teen Spirit was a reflection of his frustration, but it wasn't his whole story. He had so much more to say, but every time he tried, the world only wanted more of what they already knew. This became a pattern. Kurt trying to move past the song, but the world pulling him back. He didn't want to be defined by Teen Spirit, but it was impossible to escape. The fans, the media, the record labels, they all wanted the same thing. And Kurt, ever the reluctant star, just couldn't deliver it the way they wanted. The song had become a cage, a legacy he didn't ask for. By the time Nirvana reached their peak, Kurt had grown disillusioned. He couldn't escape the fact that Smells Like Teen Spirit had become a legacy he never asked for. It was everywhere, on the radio, on TV, in movies and commercials. Kurt had wanted to make music that connected with people, not just sell a product. But as the song grew in popularity, he felt further and further removed from his original vision. Kurt was caught between two worlds. On one hand, there was the success of Nirvana and all the perks that came with it: wealth, fame, recognition. On the other, there was the music, which had started as a form of personal expression, but had now become a machine of commercialism. The constant touring, the endless interviews, the demands to perform the same song over and over, it wore him down. The more popular the song got, the more disconnected he felt from it. The final show. In the final days of Nirvana, Kurt's frustration with Smells Like Teen Spirit reached a boiling point. It wasn't just that he hated the song. It was the constant reminder of what the world wanted him to be versus who he actually was. In their last performances together, Kurt struggled to find meaning in the song anymore. It was no longer the raw, honest expression of rebellion. It had become a symbol of everything he hated about the industry. And yet, he had to play it. It was part of the deal. Kurt Cobain's final moments with Nirvana were marked by a sense of disillusionment. But even in those final performances, there was something beautiful about the way he played Teen Spirit. Not because he was happy about it, but because it was his way of confronting the very thing that had trapped him. He played it one last time, not for the fans, not for the world, but for himself. The end of an era. In the aftermath of Kurt's death, Smells Like Teen Spirit lived on. It became more than just a song. It became a symbol of an era, a generation, and a legend. But for Kurt Cobain, it was a reminder of the price of fame. He had created something powerful, something that resonated with millions of people. But he had also paid the ultimate price, his peace, his authenticity, and his soul. As the years passed, fans continued to scream for Teen Spirit. But Kurt Cobain, the man behind it all, would never be the same. He had given everything to music, and in the end, it was the very thing that took him away. Kurt Cobain hated playing Smells Like Teen Spirit because it was the song that defined him, but it didn't define who he truly was. He was more than just a grunge icon. And perhaps that's the biggest tragedy of all. He never had the chance to show the world who he really was.